Did you know there are creatures buried beneath the earth right now that are so well preserved you could literally look them in the eye and see a reflection of a world that ended before the first human ever took a breath? Most animals that die are reclaimed by the earth in days. They rot, they're scavenged, they vanish into dust. But sometimes, the earth makes a mistake. Instead of breaking a body down, it locks it in a vault, a pocket of permafrost or a drop of ancient resin, where time simply stops. Right now, as the world's ice begins to melt, the ground is literally giving up its ghosts. We aren't just finding skeletons anymore. We're finding soft fur, wet noses, and in some cases, blood that is still liquid after 50 millennia. Today, we are looking at 6 prehistoric animals that were found so perfectly intact, they look like they died this morning. And the last one on our list? It isn't just a body, it's something that actually started moving and reproducing the moment it thawed out. You won't believe what's been waiting under our feet. We begin deep inside the Batagaika crater. In Siberia, locals call this place the gateway to the underworld. It's a massive sinking chasm that grows every year, exposing layers of earth that haven't seen the sun in 100,000 years. In the summer of 2018, researchers spotted a dark shape sticking out of a melting wall. It was a foal of the extinct Lenskaya horse. She was only 2 weeks old when she died 42,000 years ago. But when the mud was washed away, the scientists were speechless. Her dark bay coat was still shiny. Her tail was bushy. Even the tiny, delicate hairs inside her ears were still standing up, as if she could hear the scientists whispering over her. But the real shock came during the necropsy. When they opened the specimen, they found her internal organs were in pristine condition, even more unsettling. Her bladder still contained liquid urine. Think about the physics of that. Liquid, processed by a living body before the height of the last ice age, preserved perfectly for 4,200 decades. This foal is so fresh that her muscle tissue is currently being used in international labs to attempt a de-extinction project. Looking at her laying on the lab table, she doesn't look like a fossil. She looks like she's just having a nap before her next gallop. But how did she get there? Scientists believe she drowned in a mud trap. The very thing that killed her became the vacuum seal that kept her alive for eternity. In 2011, near the bank of the Sialak River, 2 brothers were hunting for mammoth tusks when they found a small furry snout peeking through the frozen mud. What they pulled out was a 12,500-year-old puppy. While most ancient finds are wild wolves, this creature was different. This was the tumut dog, one of the earliest examples of a friend to humans. This puppy lived and died during a time when humans were first beginning to settle, yet its body looks like it could belong to a stray dog you'd see on the street today. When scientists at the Mammoth Museum in Yakutsk performed an MRI, they found something they had never seen in a prehistoric specimen, a brain that was 80% intact. You could clearly see the folds of the cortex and the cerebellum, but there's a darker detail. When they looked into its stomach, they found pieces of woolly mammoth fur. This tiny puppy's last meal was a giant of the Ice Age. Did its scavenger kill made by its human masters? Or was it fed the leftovers of a mammoth hunt? This dog is a literal frozen snapshot of the moment 2 species, humans and dogs, first decided to survive the world together. The fact that we can still see the last meal in its belly makes the 12,000-year gap feel like it's only been 5 minutes. Imagine walking into a cave and seeing 2 kittens huddled together, sleeping. That's exactly what researchers found in 2016. But these kittens hadn't breathed in 12,000 years. Named Uyan and Dina, these were cave lion cubs. Cave lions were the apex predators of the Ice Age. Massive, terrifying cats that were significantly larger than the African lions we know today. But Uyan and Dina weren't terrifying. They were helpless. They were only about a week or 2 old when they died. Their eyes hadn't even opened yet. The level of preservation here is haunting. You can see every individual whisker on their muzzles and the tiny pads on their paws. Scientists believe their mother had hidden them in a deep cave for safety while she went out to hunt. But a sudden landslide or cave-in sealed the entrance, trapping the cubs in an airtight frozen tomb. The most incredible part: researchers found traces of their mother's milk still inside their tiny stomachs. It is the oldest milk ever discovered, a final tragic connection to a mother who likely returned to a cave she could no longer enter. They look so peaceful that it's easy to forget they belong to a lineage of monsters that once ruled the continent. Not every discovery is a giant. Sometimes, the smallest ones are the most heartbreaking because of how relatable they are. In 2023, miners in the Yukon Territory were working through a layer of permafrost when they found a brown, basketball-sized clump of fur and claws. At first glance, it looked like a tangled mess of dead roots or a waste pile, but X-rays revealed a perfect skeletal structure curled into a tight, defensive ball. It was an Arctic ground squirrel from 30,000 years ago. These animals survived the brutal northern winters by hibernating underground. This particular squirrel had done everything right. It dug its burrow, lined it with grass, and curled up to save heat. It entered a state of torpor, waiting for the spring. But that year, the frost went too deep, or the ground shifted, and the squirrel's sleep became permanent. It is perfectly preserved in that exact hibernation position. Its whiskers are still there. Its tiny ears are pressed against its head to stay warm. It has been waiting for a spring thaw that never arrived for 30,000 years. It's a reminder that in the Ice Age, the line between sleeping and extinct was razor thin. While permafrost is an incredible freezer, it eventually melts. But there is another kind of vault that lasts for millions of years: amber. In 2017, a piece of amber the size of a large marble was found in Myanmar. Inside was something that shouldn't exist. It wasn't an insect, it was a bird. Specifically, an opposite bird that lived 99 million years ago, right alongside the Tyrannosaurus rex. Unlike a fossil, which is just a rock impression of a bone, this amber contains the bird's actual skin, its feathers, and its tiny clawed wings. You can see the individual barbs on the feathers and the scale patterns on its feet. It's so detailed that you can see the color patterns on its wings. This bird had teeth in its beak and claws on its wings, a terrifying hybrid of a lizard and a songbird. It looks like it could fly away if you just chipped the resin off. This isn't just a discovery, it's a time machine. We are seeing the actual flesh of a creature that saw the dinosaurs rule the Earth. It is the most complete prehistoric bird ever found, and it's small enough to fit in your pocket. Finally, we come to the discovery that keeps scientists up at night. Everything we've talked about so far has been dead, or so we thought. In 2018, a team of researchers took soil samples from the Siberian permafrost that had been frozen for 46,000 years. This soil dated back to a time when Neanderthals were still walking the Earth. Inside that soil, they found microscopic roundworms known as nematodes. These worms were frozen stiff. They were essentially tiny rocks. They hadn't moved, breathed, or eaten in 46 millennia. But when the scientists moved them to a lab, added a few drops of water, and slowly raised the temperature, something disturbing happened. The worms began to twitch. Within hours, they were moving. Within days, they were eating and, even more incredibly, they began to reproduce. They had entered a state called cryptobiosis, where the body's metabolism drops to 0.01% of normal. They were essentially paused while the entire history of modern human civilization happened above them. They skipped the end of the Ice Age, the rise of the Roman Empire, and the Industrial Revolution, only to wake up in a modern lab. This discovery has changed everything we know about life and death. If a worm can survive 46,000 years in the ice and wake up hungry, what else is waiting in the melting permafrost? Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of the terrifying things the Earth is hiding, make sure to like and subscribe, and check this video next.